in 2019, in the summer of 2019, and was able to start to kind of make some connections, and then the whole world seemed to end within about 6 months. So this idea of learning a new community, it was really tough because not only was I just learning my church community, but I was learning the city itself, and then began to feel this process of just being kind of isolated, the new guy in town, without a lot of connections. For 5 years, I served in Madison County, just outside of West Jefferson. So I didn't move from very far away, but it's a different world living in a rural community and on some farmland out in Madison County versus in the suburbs of Columbus. From 2000 till 2008, I was in the Army Reserves, and I was a public affairs and broadcast journalism specialist. Did a deployment to Afghanistan in 2002, and a couple of just some short-term training things. Had an opportunity to go to Korea for a couple of weeks for being a morning DJ. That was a lot of fun for the wake up for the troops. And then the best part, our unit did good jobs and got to go spend 2 weeks in the Caribbean. So some fun stuff as well as all the hard work. Being new in a community with kids who are starting to make friends, and I'm just starting to meet people, and in the church I'm just starting to build some relationships, and all of a sudden we're just told, you can't be too close to each other. And when you live and work in the church, part of what you do is being close to each other. So it had a very isolating effect. It was hard. Just as you feel like you're starting to get to know people, you have to go your separate ways. So we found creative ways to stay in contact, going for walks, spent a lot of time outdoors. It had a really interesting effect. I think first of all, I was really proud of the way the church responded. Within 24 hours of everything sort of shutting down, we had people in the church trying to find ways to respond to meet people's needs. Particularly those food insecurity is a really big thing on our hearts, and to be able to continue to try to find ways to get food in the hands of those who are most insecure in our community. I'm thinking of those who are seniors who may not be as food insecure, but the difficulty of being able to get to the store and being able to get out. So I was really excited to see that people didn't let that kind of dampen their spirits beyond the initial shock of like, oh no, how do we navigate something we've never done before? There is no handbook how to handle a global pandemic. It was a great adage of the church, we've never done it that way before. We stripped that whole thing away. We did all kinds of things we'd never done before. We found ways to be creative in worship, to be able to stream, to be able to have Zoom classes. I mean, people didn't know what Zoom was before the pandemic. And now when we don't do those things, people are like, well, what happens? The church was very resilient. I was very proud of people and continuing to find ways to be connected. Outdoor worship, people didn't give up. They didn't give up. They continued to want to meet together to be the body of Christ. So in 2019, the area of Old Hilliard was beginning to sort of transform itself. Center Street hadn't been closed off yet. The Center Street market wasn't open yet, so there still weren't some of these central gathering spots. And so coming through COVID and out of COVID, I saw that these really cool places that the city and others within the city were beginning to create these places, these third places for community to gather together. Now we have these great gathering events. We have these great events that are happening at Center Street, and everybody just kind of has found the ways to be together. I didn't have a reference of how people interacted in the city before COVID. But I've seen neighbors being neighbor to each other. I mean, people still have their differences. They still have their arguments and their fights. But I really saw a community that really kind of looked out and took care of each other. I think the backbone is still there in our community for places for people to gather, places for people to look out for each other and to take care of each other, which really gives this kind of suburb out here on the outskirts of Columbus a small town feel, which is really a cool thing. When I arrived in 2019, HUMC was the host of the Hilliard Farm Market. So that was already generating some community. So in 2020, the question became, can we still do this? And we continued to have the farm market, which continued to be able to be a place for people to gather together. It was a great thing to have on those Tuesday afternoons. It provided me an opportunity to see people outside of my household and outside of my own family and begin to just check in with people as they would kind of come and go. But our buildings were empty inside, just for safety pieces. And so as we were kind of coming back together, it was like, what can we do with the space? You know, there was a previous business that was using the space, and COVID hit them hard, and their business had to fold. We started really thinking and praying about, like, what can we use the space for that's a greater outreach to our community? We had a couple of organizations that came. There was a local baseball team that just needed a place to practice indoors during the winter months. And so we had this great big open space. We let them come in and have a good time. Through those conversations, people began to find we had this space, and people kept coming to us and asking us about utilizing, because it was large enough rooms that people could socially distance. It was just amazing to me that God continued to bring to us people who had very specific needs, most of them just kind of around space, and we were able to do that. But then we would have some pretty specific asks, like, hey, have you ever thought about this before? One day I was at the church with one of our staff members, and the question became, hey, I know somebody who may be interested in roasting coffee in our building. You think we should have that conversation? I was like, hey, I'm willing to have any conversation. More than just about providing space and giving space and having places for people. It's about then the human relationships that grow and develop from that. Growing out of that, you know, the Hilliard Food Pantry had their fire, and they were looking for a much more functional and longer term kind of stability as they were growing back. And we invited them to utilize the space that we had, and now that's growing into a larger partnership. And now we have the share closet and the free store that's grown out of that, that's here in Hilliard, that's going to impact even more people. And so it's all about, for me, listening and having an ear for what the needs are in the community, which are often the touch points that God brings us together, and then seeing what we can do to be able to resource and partner with those to be able to have a greater impact on all of our neighbors. I remember, you know, Lori had set us up with an opportunity to come, and we remember coming over to the shop, and it was right. I remember this because it was in May, and you guys were getting ready to have the May the 4th specials, and you got me one of those Yoda coffees that was phenomenal. It's become a staple for me. Every May I got to come and grab one of those Yoda coffees, and just having a conversation about what can we do. But it was more, for me, it was more than just about the ability to create and have a space for coffee to be roasted. To me, the biggest impact of that was just the instant human relationship and connection that was felt in that space. And so I will remember sitting around that table and just dreaming and not limiting those dreams, but having big God-sized dreams of what things could be. And I think the relationship has become even more than I could ever have imagined just in an informal conversation 2 years ago.